My girlfriend lied to her boss about me and slept with a married coworker. So I triggered an HR investigation and left her life in ruins. Am I the asshole? I'm Max, a 38-year-old marketing director at a mid-size company. To give you some context, Briona, my 36-year-old girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, works as a pharmaceutical sales executive. After a year, we moved in together and developed what I believe to be a strong relationship after meeting at a charity golf tournament. We talked about it even though we weren't married. Have names chosen for future children, the entire bundle. Briona's big promotion to regional director of sales 6 months ago was the beginning of the issue. Her title was impressive, her compensation increased significantly, and all of a sudden she was attending regional meetings and conferences twice a month. I was all for her. Took on additional domestic duties, adjusted my schedule to meet her new needs, and even assisted her in creating her presentations when she was pressed for time. In retrospect, that's when things started to change. Little things at the beginning. She would talk about her co-workers, but she would never propose that we meet. Our pictures vanished from her social media accounts. She began to dress differently, sporting looks and cosmetics I had never seen before. She would respond to my compliments by saying, "It's what professionals in my position wear." This implied that I wouldn't get it, even though I hold an executive position myself. Her company's annual gala was announced last month. Black tie. Welcome spouses and significant others. At first, Briona informed me that the gathering was just for staff. It wasn't until I heard her talking about what her coworkers' husbands would be wearing during a phone conversation that I realized the truth. She said she was merely attempting to save me a dull evening when I confronted her. She agreed that I could come after some debate. I even purchased a new suit for the event. It was a well-tailored Armani that cost $3,000, nothing fancy. I wanted to dress up for her special evening. The gala's evening finally arrived. In a black designer outfit that I had never seen before, Briona looked magnificent. The event took place at a high-end hotel in the heart of the city, complete with gourmet catering and an open bar. As Briona worked the room, I was genuinely having fun and chatting with the other visitors. It happened at that moment. With a hand extended toward me, her division vice president came up and said, "So you must be the roommate Briona mentions." I waited for her to correct him. I would anticipate her saying, "In fact, we have been together for 5 years." Or, she nodded, "This is my boyfriend Max." Yes, Max and I share an apartment downtown. It's so convenient for commuting. Before continuing, the VP engaged in small conversation for an additional minute. As I stood there trying to comprehend what had just transpired, my champagne glass was frozen halfway to my lips. Once we were by ourselves, I muttered, "Roommate?" She gave a shrug. "Don't make a scene. Graham is a traditional guy. He believes that relationships at work are unprofessional and prioritizes family." "We don't work together," I said. "And since when is having a committed relationship unprofessional?" She growled, "You don't understand corporate politics." Then, as another executive walked up, she forced a smile. I spent the next 2 hours being introduced to at least a dozen people as her roommate, or just Max. Every time, my patience eroded a little more. I was furious by the time we arrived home, but I was resolved to have a sensible discussion. I questioned her as she slipped off her heels in our foyer. "What was that about? 5 years together and I'm suddenly your roommate?" She let out a loud sigh, as if I were a child incapable of understanding a basic idea. "It's not personal, it's professional. My relationship status isn't relevant to my career." "Not relevant? You invited me to a partner's event." She poured herself a glass of wine without handing me one, saying, "I invited you because you kept pushing the issue. Honestly, you should be grateful I keep you around at all." I blinked. "Excuse me? Let's be real, Max. I'm on track to make senior leadership in 2 years. My career is taking off. Meanwhile, you're—" She made a vague gesture toward me. "Comfortable." I reminded her. "I'm a director at my company. I make 6 figures. I've supported every career move you've made." She gave an eye roll. She took a sip of wine and said, "Your company has 50 employees? Mine has 20,000. You're a big fish in a puddle. Face it. You're lucky I've kept you around. Most women in my position would have upgraded by now." The remark struck like a blow to the body. 5 years. That's all she was giving me as charity. I knew I had 2 options. I could argue, battle, try to convince her of my worth, or I could just agree. I went with the latter. "You're right," I muttered. I haven't been appreciating your success properly. I'm sorry. She was taken aback by the abrupt surrender. Her face changed from disdain to perplexity to contentment. Well, I'm glad you understand. I do now, I told her confidently. It won't be an issue going forward. My response seemed to please her. Even though we slept more apart than normal, we went to bed without talking anymore. Still sporting the diamond earrings I had given her for our 4th anniversary, she departed early the following morning for a brunch meeting. I started carrying out the plan I had developed throughout my restless night as soon as her automobile backed off. Documentation comes first. I photographed everything in our flat, paying particular attention to the things I had bought. I had paid the security deposit on our leasing agreement, which was in both of our names. My contributions to our joint costs are shown on the bank statements. Screenshots of my monthly deposits to our joint account, which, as I was paid well by my employer, paid for 70% of our rent and utilities. I then called my job, my lawyer, and my bank. I got everything in motion by lunchtime. After that, I packed deliberately and efficiently. Only took things that were definitely mine, such as clothes, personal belongings, and antiques. Anything we'd bought jointly, anything that might have been a present for her, was left behind. In fact, while Brianna was asleep the previous evening, I had called a moving firm and explained my predicament without getting too personal. Need to move out while my ex is at work tomorrow, was all I had to say. They had heard it previously. Although the next day service charge was high, it was well worth it. At 1 p.m., the movers arrived. As planned. The unit was half empty by 3 o'clock. I've left my home office. I've moved out of the living room furniture I brought from my last flat. The costly entertainment system is no longer there. I lost the original artwork I had gathered. Even the refrigerator and washer-dryer set I bought when we first moved here are gone. All that was left was a half-furnished apartment with gaps in it that were as obvious as missing teeth in a smile. She might keep the memory of our bed, which I left behind. She had chosen the kitchen table. Of course, her clothes, the ornaments she had chosen. On the kitchen counter, I left a brief note that said, "Good luck paying rent, roommate. I've covered my half through the end of the month." This is where the plot changes though. I didn't simply leave. I proceeded with a strategy. Do you recall that I called my supervisor, lawyer, and bank? This is the purpose of something. First, let's separate our finances. Not merely shutting down joint accounts, but starting a thorough financial analysis of our partnership. Every trip, gift, and shared expense is tracked down and evaluated. Reviewing our legal entanglements is the second call. Despite not being married, we had real estate holdings, investments, a joint holiday home, and an upstate cottage ownership agreement. Legal connections that would require meticulous disentanglement. Call 3. Putting my professional backup plan into action. I was offered a job at a big Chicago company 6 months prior, which would have paid almost 3 times as much as I do now. But since Brianna had a job here, I said no. I contacted Now to check on the status of the opportunity. Yes, it was. I was unaware at the time that Brianna had been leading a double life, going much beyond simply referring to me as her roommate at a business function. I was checking into a hotel later that afternoon, when I got a call from an unidentified number. Of all people, it was Brianna's vice president, Graham. "Max, this is awkward, but are you and Brianna still together?" Perplexed by his inquiry and the fact that he had my number, I inquired as to how he had obtained my contact details. "You gave me your business card at the gala," he clarified. "Said to reach out if we ever needed marketing consultation. I kept it because, frankly, something felt off about your situation." I verified that Brianna and I had recently parted ways. A long pause ensued. "I thought so. Look, there's something you should know. The reason I called you her roommate last night is because that's how she's been describing you for months. But she's also been seeing someone else, Charles from law. They've been quite open about it at work events you weren't at." It felt like the floor fell away from me. How open? PDA at the last corporate retreat, sharing rooms on business trips. Everyone assumed you two had some kind of arrangement. With trembling hands I thanked him for being honest and hung up. She used him as a convenient cover for her affair, not just as a roommate. Everything changed after this realization. Now I thought that my measured answer was insufficient. The well-planned departure appeared too mild for the deceit I had experienced. I therefore started the second step, which I now see was going nuclear. 48 hours later I had 1. withdrew my half of our joint investment in a holiday home, resulting in a forced sale during a very bad period for the market. The lease was up in 60 days, so I informed our landlord that I would not be renewing it. I made it plain that I was distancing myself from any future, but I paid my share through then. 3. I declined their counteroffer by contacting the HR department of my now former employer and stating that I was moving because of personal reasons. My position had become untenable when I brought up my significant other's contact with someone at her company. Left breadcrumbs but did not identify names. 4. Tagged a few mutual friends in a single social media post announcing my joyful job transfer to Chicago so Brianna would see it. 5. Phoned my cousin, who works in a different division of the same pharmaceutical company. Knowing that the office rumor cycle would start, they told others what had transpired. That night, the calls began. "Where is all your stuff? Are you seriously moving out over one comment? You can't just leave like this. The rent is due next week. Why is Simone from accounting asking me about Charles?" Were among the hundreds of increasingly frantic messages that began with Brianna. I didn't respond to any of them. "They're investigating me and Charles for non-disclosed workplace relationship violations. What did you do?" was the text that followed, confirming that I had reached my goal. I didn't answer though. Her tone had entirely shifted by the third day. "Max, please, I'm sorry. What I said was horrible. You were never just a roommate. Please call me back." I didn't. By the end of the week, I had deposited money for a lakeside apartment, signed the contract for my new job in Chicago, and was getting ready to drive across the country. I learned of what had transpired at that point from mutual friends. Until the investigation was completed, Brianna had been put on administrative leave. It appears that Charles used their text exchanges to support his assertion that she had chased him assiduously. Her meticulously cultivated professional persona was disintegrating. Her share of the substantial loss from the sale of the cabin we purchased together was primarily caused by the withdrawal penalty. The landlord had already put our flat up for rent, so she would have to find a new home fast because our joint accounts, which I had canceled, had ruined credit. Brianna arrived at the hotel 2 weeks after the gala, while I was preparing my car to leave for Chicago. Someone I hardly recognized took the place of the calm executive. Red eyes and disheveled hair. The sight of her did not surprise me. My hotel wasn't a secret. I had first booked it using our shared credit card before using my personal card since I knew she would see the transaction on the statement. Although I wasn't sure if she would actually turn up, a part of me had been anticipating this confrontation. Her voice cracked as she questioned, "Was this all because I called you my roommate?" "No," was the first thing I had said to her since I had left. "It was because when I objected, you said I was lucky you kept me around at all." "I didn't mean it. I was stressed about work and showing off for the married guy you've been sleeping with?" She winced. "Graham told you?" "Everyone's told me, Brianna. Apparently I was the only one who didn't know." "I made a mistake," she said to herself. "Several mistakes, but destroying my career, my financial security, that's disproportionate." And there it was. The instant I thought I might have overreached myself. I never meant to be the type of person who planned out someone else's demise, not because she didn't deserve repercussions. My justifiable rage had turned into something more repulsive. "You're right," I acknowledged. "Some of what happened, I didn't anticipate how it would cascade." "Then help me fix it," she begged. "Talk to HR. Tell them you made it up." I told the truth. I never talked to your HR department. That was all internal. And no, I won't lie to protect you. With mascara running down her cheeks, she gazed at me. "I loved you, you know. It wasn't all fake." I shut my trunk. Funny thing about love, it requires respect, which apparently, even as your roommate, I didn't earn. I watched her dwindling in my rearview mirror as I got into my car and drove off. Chicago waited. A new position. A fresh beginning. Now 6 months have passed. At the bigger firm, my career has flourished. It turned out that I could sell my skills outside of my puddle. I've developed a life I'm proud of, met new friends and engaged in casual dating. Brianna continues to call from time to time. According to common friends' most recent information, she has been demoted but restored at work. Charles was moved to a different section. She lives in a less fashionable neighborhood in a considerably smaller apartment. Consignment websites have sold the designer clothing. I occasionally question whether I went too far, whether being betrayed and humiliated caused me to turn into someone I never intended to be. Cold, calculating, and vindictive. At other moments, I recall her expression when she rejected their 5 years of dating. The careless brutality of someone who believed I should be grateful to be alive at all. In the middle is where the truth is. I destroyed the life she had constructed on the basis of our relationship. Not just moved away. Was it reasonable? Most likely not. Did she deserve that? I haven't decided yet. I do know, though, that I will never again share a room with anyone. If I learned anything from that $3,000 suit, it's that self-respect can occasionally come at a great cost, but it's always worth it. Edit. This really took off overnight. To address a few often asked questions. 1. Yes, I do lament the extent of things. I didn't want to ruin her life. I just wanted to leave with honor. Our split had some inevitable repercussions. Others resulted from the exposure of her own behavior. 2. No. She wasn't reported to HR directly by me. I told my cousin about it separately and brought up the matter with my own HR department after I turned down their counteroffer. It was internal rumors, not my official complaint, that led to the company's investigation. 3. I tried. For those who say I should have simply spoken to her. In answer, she told me to be thankful that she had kept me around. That put an end to any more discussion. 4. Some have inquired as to whether I've found a new partner. Although I'm taking things slowly, I have dated. After something like this, trust is difficult to come by. Update. After 3 months, Chicago life keeps getting better. After I brought in 2 significant clients, I was promoted by the firm. I've started dating a corporate lawyer who immediately presents me as her boyfriend. In some ways, Briona's life has stabilized. I learned that she had seen a therapist and is focusing on personal development from mutual friends. She apologized profusely in a long email to me. I didn't reply, but I did appreciate that. It's best to close some chapters. After being on the market for months, the cabin eventually sold. Everything was taken care of by my lawyer, who divided the money based on our initial investment. It was fair, but less than either of us had hoped for. In hindsight, I see that both of us did harm. Me with my reaction, her with her betrayal. I can admit my role in it, which makes a difference. I guess that is growth. If you're wondering if getting revenge feels nice, the answer is no. After the first satisfaction wears off, it seems empty. Rebuilding, moving on, and discovering that your value was never reliant on approval from others, is what feels good.